So I think that's all we have for like the main part of the podcast. Now we should probably move on to the Q&A, right, Ginger?
Yeah, yeah. I'll let you take the lead in
Oh,
picking the questions.
okay, yeah, I'll read the questions and then we can both respond to it. All right,
Sure,
so
go
the
ahead.
first person who asked a question is Amethaz, I believe. They're asking if this is a good storyline, um, in which the protagonist, main character, whose name is Estella. Oh, that was a mouthful.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a
Ginger,
lot.
what's your Ginger? What's your take on that?
Okay, here's my takes. After reading this, you gave a lot of history, a lot of backstory. I find that most of the time when people are describing their plots, they describe what happened before the plot. You should also kind of have a lot of ideas on what's happening during the plot, and not just why the character. Yeah, it's important to know why the character is where she is, but it's kind of hard to build off of with not that many details about like. So what's gonna be the inciting incident? Like what's gonna be your midpoint, what's gonna be the climax? Is there gonna be a battle or somewhere? Like we need to know some more things of the plot and not just their history. That's just my take
Mm-hmm.
on that.
Yeah, I agree with Ginger, but this is very subjective, okay? So don't like take all my critiques to heart. But I do really like the concept of like magic and fantastical elements. I really like that. But I do think that the like this I wouldn't say that it's like a cliche plot, but like it's a plot in which like your character is bullied and like kind of ostracized for like some sort of curse, and like she's granted powers. I feel like that's a very like used
Generic,
yeah,
a generic
yeah, it's a
thing.
generic, oh my god, I literally can't think, it's so late. It's a generic
Okay.
narrative, and I feel like if you could change it up a bit, it would prove to be more original and thus more like unique, and people will like that. It'll be more compelling and interesting in that sense.
I also think that a lot of the focus is on like her hair. Okay, I get that it's an important detail, but a lot of the focus is on like her hair, her powers. How about what she feels? Like we know she's bullied, but what how does she take that in? Like what happened to her after her being bullied that makes that a significant event? Is she just like shy now because of it? Like what did it do on her like mentalities? And like what is she like what makes her other than her spirituality, yeah, her spirituality, what makes her special, like as the main character? What is her purpose in this besides being born special, you know? What's
Mm.
You gotta figure that out as well to make her a relatable character. She's not relatable right away because she's been bullied, guys.
Yeah,
Bullying is
it's a
we empathize, we sympathize, but
it's very
there needs
overused.
to be more. Yeah, it's overused, needs to be
I
more.
think, yeah, I really think, I know that people go through bullying, but like I swear it's so overused that it gets annoying. I of course, like everything is not going to be original, but like try to strive for something more original. Um and also like the whole idea of like there are like five chosen ones. Like the whole idea of a chosen person is overused as well. But you can definitely go with it if you're gonna have more unique details and like plot twists and other things that kind of make your story more original. Um, yeah, obviously, this is just a short synopsis of what you have thought of, and I think you're heading in a good direction. Just as long as you remember to incorporate unique concepts and ideas, I think you are off to a great start.
Yeah, I agree. I think what you need to keep in mind is how what happens is affecting the character, what like her actual purpose, her arc, her everything that I mentioned a while ago is, and also like what makes this story personal and not just some adventure story that someone can write off as just another fantasy story. Like what makes it special to you
Yeah, what makes it unique?
there? Mm-hmm.
Because you want people to be like, oh my gosh, I know that story, and like they can tell like it apart from other fantasy stories and
Yeah,
eating
yeah.
cranberries. You're good. Anyways,
Next
next
question.
question is, how do you manage to focus on a character story? And how do you manage to make a very hooking story that makes readers and viewers keep on watching or reading your story?
If you mean like, oh, it's like how do you make them focus on the character, like engage with the character? Well, simply you just have to show something kind of relatable or them having a hard time, and then show us how they like how they try, and then show us, make us connect to the character, so we want to see them succeed. We
Mm.
want to see them like try and work for what they gain in the end. We also want to see like developments that like kind of suspenseful, but also developments that engage us. Like, what are they gonna do next? How are they going to overcome this? And basically, that connection and engagement is really important.
Mm.
And how do you manage to make a very hooking
Mm-hmm.
story? Well, again, engagement. You have to make them connect to the characters at the very start. Like, from the first page, it would be ideal if from the first page they already want to see what your character does. So with that, you should make something very integral to your story, or like something that will affect later on events happen in the beginning, so that they have a reason to
Mm.
stick to the story.
Yeah. For how do you manage to focus on a character story? I think what you mean by that is like, um, how do you write your story around the main character or kind of incorporate like their like side stories into your main plot? I would say it really is dependent on like how long your story is going to be, because if your story is longer, you can focus on multiple character story, and um but you do want to like make the main you do want to make your main character story the most like broad, the most expansive. You really want to focus in on it, because if you have like other characters and their backstories like in more like chapters than your own main character's story is, then that's like your main character is not main anymore. But
Exactly.
like to focus on your character story,
I would say
I don't
actually,
really know. Just
I
build a plot. I don't know.
it's okay. It's okay.
I don't know.
I actually, my story, I don't know whether to consider my story having a main character with many subplots or having just multiple main characters.
Mm.
I think that in this case, what I would suggest is having like your subplots connect, or like have a sort of connection
Mm.
to the main plot,
Mhm.
so that all of them contribute to the main plot. Like all of them have a
Yeah.
reason for being there, and it pushes your main character's plot forward, or it gives your main characters, like it throws something to your main character, like, here, I'm your subplot, you gotta focus on me, here's your confront me. And then it's like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, I have to do this now. The main character goes, and like everything, if it connects to the main character, it will just like enhance your main character story rather than taking the spotlight away from it. Of course, we want our subplot characters to be interesting, but they should be like supporting the main character alongside being their own thing. It's very important to
Yeah.
consider.
I do agree. Like finding a perfect balance is definitely hard, because I know that we stress that like each character should have their own purpose, etc., etc. And some people might think of that as like, oh, each of them needs to have a backstory that is like shown. Um, but like don't there's a balance, right? Like you can't like
Yeah,
incorporate a backstory to every character and show that in your writing. In fact, I've actually been having some trouble doing that with some of my characters, because I kind of have like an attachment to one of my side characters, let's just say that.
I can
And
relate.
like yeah, I like a lot of my life is reflected in him. Like I don't know. And I just think that his character is like really interesting, but he's not like the main character. I know that myself. He isn't. He wouldn't like be suited to be a main character. Yeah, I still want to like show to people that he's so complex and like such a fun character to like see play a part in this story. But I do like it is hard to maintain a balance. But yeah, do what Ginger says, like connect it to like either your message, um the world building, because like a lot of my side characters contribute to the world building a lot, and that like ultimately builds a construct for the main character. It does eventually connect back to the main character.
Yeah, sometimes with things you love, you gotta kill them just a little
It
bit.
sucks.
But but there's always a way to kind of make them make it exist.
Mhm.
Like you don't have to put everything, you can imply it in some dialogue. You can also, if you have the time and it's not going to kind of obstruct your main plot. There are some series that you can see that have some episodes just focusing on a certain character, and like in the end, you know that it will affect the main plot, but like it's really nice to have that episode just to them. For example, I
Mm.
did a Ginger Rated on YouTuber Academy, and I really liked the Stellar episode, episode 2, because like it was just engaging, and we didn't see that in the first episode. So like it's really, you can find a balance. You can, but sometimes you gotta
You gotta cut
kill
it.
your darlings. You gotta cut it.
Mhm.
Just a little bit.
Mhm.
But not everything. Because if you cut everything, you're gonna be like, why am I even writing this story anymore? You know?
Balance again.
So
Hard to maintain it though.
hmm
Now,
yeah.
how do you manage to make a very hooking story? Okay. So for me, I would think that like, yeah, scene one or the first chapter, it needs to be hooking in a sense that you need to have suspense. You need to have the reader asking questions in their head, like, ooh, where's this gonna go? Like, who is this person? What's like affecting this character? Stylistic choices are also pretty integral in, I think, making a very compelling story. So if we're talking about like a script, like in terms of film, I would say visuals are really important as well. Um, but if we're talking about like in an actual like writing sense, the stylistic choice of the way that you write is also important. Like you could start it off with like a character's thoughts. You could do it with like some sort of like kind of like onomatopoeia kind of vibe, or just like you can hook somebody with your style of writing. It could be really fast paced that like really catches them off guard, like, whoa, what's happening? You know, I read a short story that was like that, and like I actually was really interested. But again, think of unique ways to like hook somebody in. And that doesn't have to be just like creating suspense through the plot itself, but creating like an interest to want to continue to read more through other aspects like style. Is it okay if the story has a character that won't be used much in the main story but gets development after the story, like a sequel?
Yeah, of course. Of course it's alright. Like, you, if they're not gonna have too much purpose, then just lay off the screen time, but like have some hints on what their purpose is gonna be in your sequel.
Mm,
Because they can have like cameos and stuff,
yeah.
so that like you know that they're gonna be in the sequel and like have their purpose. So there's two ways to go about this. It's either you don't put them in at all and just introduce them in the sequel, or you give them cameos in like the main story and then you give them a bigger role in the sequel. It's perfectly fine to do that.
Yep. Answered perfectly. I don't really have much to add on to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. If you were to say a character's arc has ended, what do we do with that character afterwards?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. Some people die after their character arc. Some people decide to kill a character off when their character arc is finished. Sometimes they even choose to do that before their character arc is finished, just to have it like really bittersweet and have everyone crying. But if you want to do it where they live, I mean, it's up to you. Depends on what kind of story this is. If their character arc is ended, you can show them like what was their character arc for, like did they want to achieve something and now are achieving it? Because if they are, then you can just show them, I mean, let's just say that their character arc ended midway, maybe. If that happens, then you can just show them doing that thing that they achieved, and then have them have moments where they help a character with that thing that they achieved, or like in their position, so that they still have like presence in the story if that's what you want. uh what do we do with them afterwards? It's kind of just like they're in the background. We get some like messages from them or like news, but not
Mm.
that much. If you don't want them to be in the story anymore, if you don't have a place for them, then you can find some sort of exit. Or like if you really want them to be there, or it feels out of place to just like shoo them away, then there are many ways
Mhm.
to add them back in even if their character arc is finished. So
Yeah.
it just depends on where your story is going and what
Yeah.
you need.
Yeah, so like what Ginger said, the whole like the definition to a character arc is basically the duration of which a character changes, the journey of a character's change over the course of a story. So speaking to this, like one of my characters goes like undergoes a character arc, and it's a side character. So when the main character like physically moves away from like the geographical location of that side character, it ends essentially. And the purpose of that character is like faded, because now the main character's moved on to another area in which they will meet new people, and like we can focus more on their stories. So that's my way. Like they like the side character that like I had their arc just ended, it doesn't mean that like they're like bye bye, but they're still there, and they'll play a part at the end, but their overall change and our focus on that character has diminished. So yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot of ways to go around that.
Yeah, I would advise like not having them completely
Die.
disappear
Yeah, I
for
agree.
like what if you have an hour of a movie completely disappear for like 40 minutes,
Hmm.
because that's not ideal. I mean, if they had a small role, sure. If they had a significant impact on the character, there should be at least at least one mention in that time that they were gone. Just one reference or
Yeah, that they
something,
like it
just to
connects
make sure.
back. Connects back.
Yeah, yeah. It could be like in the character's thoughts of like, but this, I want to do something, but this person told me not to. And like, that's their impact from when they were on screen. And that's important to take note of and have present. So,
Hmm. All right, so Purple's question is, if you write stories, where do you get these kind of ideas? Okay, so we kind of mentioned this over like the first topic of our podcast, but to reiterate on it, basically consuming other like forms of stories, like movies, like I don't know, comics, music, right? Like things around like in your life as well, like basing it off of like your life events, life experience.
hmm
And then what was the last one? Forgot. Hold on.
um, me too. Wait, let's check the
Wait.
script.
We're so
Think of
good.
something you care about. Yeah, we're
Oh
so
yeah, the
good, guys. We
message.
crammed this script like 30 minutes before this podcast
Yeah, oh
started.
my
Like,
god.
it's amazing.
We're amazing.
Cramming goals.
My main source of like creating ideas is competition.
Yep,
I
yep,
I
competition.
feel like a lot of writers are actually like this, but like when you see other people creating these like interesting stories and you're like, "Whoa, it's so good." You're like, "Wait, I want to make one like this, but I want to actually
Yeah, their
fix
execution
something
is so
in
bad.
their execution." And you do that.
It really boils down to, again, what you want, right?
Mhm.
And also what you're interested in seeing. Like, another thing is, if you want to see this kind of thing, then write it yourself. You want to try it out, then try it yourself.
Yeah.
If you like want, you should probably decide on your genre, but you
Mm.
can also mix
Mhm.
genres. For example, it could be like a mystery fucking 90s thing. I don't know what to do. Sorry
Yeah.
for the curse word.
No, that's okay. I agree. Yeah, because like I inspired my Unbounded series off of like the fact that I love fantasy stories, and I also really like history. Like I just like the idea of like complex characters, complex world building, and how it just is really interesting and cool. That's just it. I don't even have like a main message. Like there's obviously a message of like, oh, life is hard, life sucks, and a lot of like realism played into it, but like it's really just like, oh, I'm interested in this and I want to like show people like the wonders of like what I'm trying to convey.
Yeah, it's like learning about something and then trying to share it to other people as well because like guys, it's really cool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. So what is the best way to tell a story that leaves the audience to pick up the pieces of the story? Oh, that's a good question. Again, I would say that having a lot of detail and foreshadowing, as well as a lot of suspense, is good. And show don't tell, that will cause like that will make your audience like physically try to like unconsciously like dissect like what is going on, and like connect the pieces, and therefore making it a more wondrous experience for them. I just think overall, if you want like it to be where the audience is doing most of the work, make it more detail oriented, show don't tell. And yeah, I actually would incorporate some like flashbacks. That would be really cool because the past plays a big part into the future, which is probably or the present in which your story is happening. So that also is like a puzzle piece, a piece of the puzzle for the viewer to kind of like put into the main puzzle.
Yeah, I agree. So, what's the best way to tell a story that leaves the audience to pick up the pieces? There are things called Chekhov's gun, red herrings, foreshadowing, a lot of writing terms that all basically help in making sure that your foreshadowing, your clues, your hints for a suspense, a surprise twist, or something that you reveal later on gets gets across, and like you don't want to make it too obvious, like subtlety is key, but you want to make sure that this does not come out of left field. We all want to make sure our twists don't seem like plot devicey, or we don't want it too obvious. So the best way to do this is a lot of subtlety, and in a lot of places that people expect a different meaning, or like they expect the usual meaning of what it is, but it actually is already a clue to what you want to twist reveal later. So a thing you could do is like have double meanings in your dialogue. You can also have some random shots of something, kind of with a mysterious vibe that indicates something is off here, or just some looks as well. A lot of body language is important in a foreshadowing, and just leaving some things unanswered, but distracting people from that with an answer to something else, so that this question was there, but they forgot. And later on, when you reveal it, they'll remember and it'll be like, oh my gosh, it was in front of us all this time.
Yeah, what Ginger said was great, but like I do think that you want, like, if you actually want to create a story like that, I would be careful about the balance, the whole idea of like how much do you want to leave unanswered. And I have a really good example. Genshin Impact story. The lore is great, the detail is great, but I ultimately don't enjoy it because a lot of the lore is unanswered and the main plot seems really scattered. It just it's all over the place, so much so that like you yourself like can't understand it unless you read up information about it, like on Google, after like the people who are really intently into it like dissect 5 million aspects of how one thing came to be. I just don't think that's enjoyable. Like if you make it too much that your audience has to like work to get it, like in fact like spending like more of their time outside of just watching it to like really get into it, then I don't think it's really worth making that because it'll deter a lot of viewers. I don't know. It's all subjective, I guess.
I do not play that game, so I don't have any input.
Actually, it might just be me.
But
Oh my god, everybody's gonna come after me for saying that. Oh
no,
shit.
no, I'm sure you'll be fine. No, I'm sure you'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's an opinion, guys. Don't cancel anybody. We're all
Yeah.
here. We're all friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just avoid being all over the place. Kind of, I would say like a good rule of thumb is to have your hints be kind of condensed, or not condensed, but have your hints
Focused, yeah.
be, if you're not confident in your foreshadowing, have it be as subtle as you can. Like, because some people tend to like overestimate or underestimate how much, like how obvious their thing could be. Some also like overestimate how obvious it is and like just make it like no clue at all. But like a good thing to follow is like just have it be around 3 hints or 5 hints during the whole story, and just make them subtle. Make them very
Yeah.
subtle. But once you're nearing like the reveal, make something obvious, a little bit more obvious. Just like up the intensity.
100%.
Yeah, like make it so that don't pressure yourself with the twist. Make it like it's there, but don't overthink it. Because if you do, you might either be too much or too little. And actually, a good thing to think about is like handing it to someone who hasn't read it before, and then like having the readers and just say like, "Oh, did you expect that?" And if they say, "I had a feeling," you're like on a good like trajectory.
Yeah, that's why I have Ginger review my episodes now. It really helps because,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the people around me aren't like the best writers, so you know, Ginger here is like top notch. Anyways, off topic, but
Thank you.
next question. So okay, this is another story to critique. Let's read this. Okay, Right off the bat, personally, I think it's hard for me to decipher where the cause and effect is. Like good stories will have like a solid, oh, this happened, so the character does this, something like that
Yeah,
drives the
you're
plot.
like
Yeah.
that's called a what's it? An inciting incident,
Oh my god, you have all these good
which is
terms.
yeah.
Anyways, but I don't really see that in your synopsis. I get that you didn't probably incorporate a lot of details, but I feel like the main plot, you should be able to kind of like know that like if it's important to the part, it should be part of like into the plot. It should be part of the like summary that you gave right here. So like why does she go on a journey across multiple realities and dimensions? I don't see that. Like I'm trying to look, but like I don't see the cause to that. And
Yeah, she's
just
really
try to
missing.
connect, yeah, try to connect the main events more so it makes more sense, I think. It's my main thing.
Yeah, because like an integral part of a story starting, like the first act of a story, is your inciting incident, which is basically like a catalyst, which, okay, I'm gonna give another definition because some people might not know what a catalyst is either. It's the reason why they go on the adventure. The reason why, like the question why, is so important in a story and for your main character. It should be. That's why I really agree with Zoe's like it's not here, which is a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, it was, yeah, I know you said it was too long, so yeah, you probably couldn't fit in anything, but I think just try to make sure that there's cause and effect in it. I actually like this though. I like also how it's based off of your real experience. If it is, then it will be pretty nice writing. So the whole part in where she is tasked by like elite leaders, again, that is just a very subjective thing. But like I don't.
We want to like connect to the main character. Why is she doing this? Like what the main question is why? Like really
Yeah.
we don't have a connection and that's why we're questioning like every weird thing that happens to her. I
Definitely.
like though that the plot is actually here and it's
Yeah.
not just a history.
Yeah, I do
It's
like that.
good that you've thought of
Uh
it.
huh.
Yeah, it's really good. But I think you need more engagement, like interest in the character herself. Like why is she here? Why is it her? Is there a reason other than we're doing a bullied but chosen one trope again? Like we need specifications and interest in her and why. And if we have that, then we'll just follow along with whatever adventure she goes through, as long as there's logic in it, you know? Very
Yeah,
important.
I feel like, I mean, if I were to write my own synopsis of the story, it would be very focused around like the characters' motivations and goals, as what we said in the podcast in the beginning, that like the goals and fears are what drives a character, and that should evidently show in your summary slash synopsis of your story, no matter what. Like, you can't have a story without that motivation. So mine would be like, Astrid is like drowning in this guilt of blah 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 blah, and so she is blah 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 blah, which blah 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 blah. Like I feel like that should happen. Like I know like there are details that you can't add in it, but like that should happen like naturally if it's formulated in that sense. Um,
Yeah, a good rule of thumb for your like synopsis is like you have to have a motivation. Like that's a good word for it. You have to have the motivation and internal conflict there. It has to be like the first line even much better because I'm pretty sure I've heard that if you want to go like professional with writing and you're going to submit stuff like submit your queries or like synopsis to like how like try publishing places, they're going to want like to see why it matters, like the internal conflict, the plot.
I also do really like the fact that you have like a very complex story. That will be really interesting. Like the names are really cool. Like that's really interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
you got it figured out. It's
yeah, I
nice.
like that. I like that. You just gotta like work to connect it more, and you got it. You're amazing. Um,
Yeah.
Is it okay if the first episode does not advance the plot much and is mostly used for world building and character introductions? Interesting. Okay, good question. So it is really hard to determine the pace of the plot, which is a very like it's a very hard thing to like fully grasp because like there's a question of like, oh, um if I want a story to be engaging and hooking, a lot has to happen in the first part of the story. But if I want it to be more full and rich, then it would have to be more slow paced, right? Because like if it's too fast, then you can't really see that many like scenarios and like how characters act, and like there isn't just much detail to like the physical world itself. There's more like plot description, so to say. But I would say that it's probably fine if it doesn't advance the plot much, because I've seen like multiple stories like have it just be like it doesn't advance the plot much, but it's just like an introduction to the world building, and I think that's fine. But as long as some sort of change happens in the first episode, like as long as like I don't know, something at the end can happen that can like spark like the main plot, that's what's important, and that can also serve as a hook. But I wouldn't say that like you keep the first episode just as like an introduction, and like you don't change the plot at all, or you're not contributing to the plot at all. It's just an introduction. That's boring, and I think that's you could go about another way of writing it, having the plot advance more in the first episode.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was listening along, and when you got to the change at the end part, I was like nodding, like yes, yes, correct, correct. So so basically, yeah, that's a good point. So that's also my rule of thumb. The first episode can be whatever the fuck, whatever you want,
Yeah,
whatever
it's
you
fine, you can
want.
curse.
Whatever you want. I see a lot of first episodes, like for whatever genre, just there. Some genres that are like character focused, especially focus on like their stories, already introducing their subplots and like who they are. But even if it's like a world building thing, well, do keep in mind that world building is not as like should not okay. It's subjective, I guess, but it should go hand in hand with characters, and like it shouldn't take over the spotlight of characters. It should supplement characters, but it shouldn't be like the main thing, unless that's what you really want to do. Okay, there are like I would say two hooks that you can do. The hook at the beginning, like at the beginning of the story, it's like, why should I be interested? And that's usually like when you introduce your character. And then at the end, it's like, oh, it's your hook for the plot. Like, oh, my inciting incident is about to start. And that's what you do at the end after all your introduction. So, like, really, yeah, sums it up well that introductions and then like a change at the end where it's like, oh,
Yep.
we're about to get into this, kind of vibe.
Also, to add on to that, yeah, the first scene, I forgot to mention this earlier, but the first scene is really important. It shouldn't just serve as a hook. Like, oh, I'm just solely adding this scene because it hooks people in, but it should connect to a important part of your plot or your character. Like for episode 1 of my Unbounded series, that like scene is a really important part of my main character, and it will kind of wrap around like a circle at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, the first scene shouldn't. Okay, a lot of people, like in the writing community or like in author tube videos that I've watched, it's like don't make your first scene an action scene because we haven't really connect. I mean, a lot of movies do this. I mean, it's fine, but if you make it an action scene first and like it's a life or death situation right away, it's like, but why do we care if this guy dies or not? That's why a lot of times life or death situations happen later on, or we actually care if they die or not. But yeah, it shouldn't just be something for like adrenaline, for excitement in the beginning. You can, but you also have to include why we should care about this person, because it's really important.
When doing characters' backstories, what could I do so it's not a generic backstory that you tend to see a lot in gacha stories? Now, personally,
Do not include bullying.
good one. Just like if you see like the stuff happen in like typical gacha stories, just avoid it. Like straight out, like just avoid it. Just be like when you're creating like a character that's an antagonist, don't make them like don't make them like Caroline from My Celebrity High Story. They're like,
yeah, you see a bad cliche. Turn the other way. Walk the other way.
Walk the other way. Make it as original as possible. Like, don't do the whole bully. Like, I'm a bully, but like in real life, like in reality, my parents are bullying me, and like I have a lot of pressure, so I'm bullying other people. Like, that's true.
Yeah.
That happens in real life, but there are other ways to like go about displaying that. I
Yeah,
feel.
I would say like I thought of this on the spot, but like there's a rule of three B's that you should avoid: bad boys, bullying, and bitches. Don't do it. Don't do
No.
it.
That is so
Don't do it.
true. That is so true. Yeah, you can totally go off of like a cliche kind of plot or like backstory, as long as you add something to it that is something that makes it different. Because I feel like a lot of like cliches, they happen in real life, and like I don't think it's like the best to just be like, oh, this is so stupid. That's like that's like just like add details that can really make it unique. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, no, actually, yeah, tropes and cliches that are too generic in gacha, they have potential.
They
It's
do.
just that they're so saturated
Mm.
in just a specific aspect.
Mm,
It's like,
mhm,
oh,
mhm, mhm,
I'm
mhm.
getting
Mm,
bullied
mm.
and I'm sad, but there's so much more
100%.
to it.
That's
So much
that
more
is
to
so
it.
true. That is, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So what Ginger said is like, oh, I'm sad after getting bullied, but um there are other things that like the character can experience after being bullied. Bullying can happen, but like the outcome could be different, so much so that it's like it overrides the cliche, so to speak.
You
And
can also
mhm.
like make the actual experience of it happening different.
Yeah, visually too. Like there are other ways to
Yeah,
make it cliche, non-cliche.
it doesn't have to be just physical bullying. There's like
Mm.
psychological bullying. There's
Mhm.
just some like bad
Mm, mm,
there are people that want to make your life bad just for the purpose of it being fun, or
mhm.
them not like liking you, or just like they don't sometimes bullies don't have a reason, and that's
Yeah.
bad to like write in if you're not experienced with writing like complex characters. But like just the process
Exactly.
of bullying,
It
it's
is.
just
It's yeah.
there's so much to it that
Mm.
like you should probably avoid it if you're not like if you haven't been like you don't have to not write something just because you don't like you haven't experienced it. But for the sake of, I've said this before, but avoid tropes if you're not confident that you can subvert them. Just try to avoid it if you're not confident.
Yeah.
If you are, you can, but try something new. Try
Mhm.
something new first.
Yeah. Also, speaking to the whole like bullying is not just physical; it can also be psychological. I just wanted to add that I really like psychological horror, and I feel like it's a very looked down upon. Like it's not like, oh my god, my brain cannot think of words right now. Like people don't typically hear of like psychological horror. They don't watch movies on it and like consume stories like that. But I really like it. I don't know if you guys like it, but I really like it. It's a different type of torture to the viewer, and it's good. Are there any resources that could be good for people new to writing stories? Oh my god, guys, Ginger's playlist compiled that has like compilations of basically a lot of good writing YouTubers that help you with writing. Go check it out right now. Wait,
Oh
Ginger,
yeah, those
can
people
you
are so good. Okay, wait, let me. Okay, I
link
haven't
it? Link it.
updated it in so long, but I probably will if people are going to like use it some more. These are the like 2 years ago probably I started watching a lot of these kinds of videos, and look where I am now.
Actually,
I've
I feel
gotten you to
like
fix
a
it.
lot of writing is you don't need to know the principles a lot of times. Like you don't need to know these fancy terms. Some people are just naturally better at writing. Like I don't know how to, like they can take situations from their lives and like other things they consume and like really emulate it in different aspects and in original ways that like you would think that they like did so much to research and like do things to become such a good writer, but they didn't. It sucks, I know.
Of it is like
Yeah.
observation, stock knowledge, and kind of just like taking it all
Observations.
in. And
Observations is so
yeah,
important.
yeah, and like just watching a lot of media, like a
Yeah.
lot of observations you get from fiction that isn't your own in any sort of medium, it's really helpful.
Your English teacher can be a helpful resource. Like, if you're genuinely interested in writing, like, you could, like, literally just send them, like, a sample of your writing and be like, hey, is this good? Like, do you think the story's good? Like, I'm sure they'll have, like, they will actually kind of appreciate that if they're genuinely, like teaching English and, like, are into their job. They will like be like, wow, thank you for reaching out to me about this. So don't be intimidated by your English teachers. Actually talk to them. Actually like let them know that you're passionate, because they will most of the time help. You know, you want to like
Mm-hmm.
appreciate them,
Yeah, I keep in
your
contact with
gratitude.
my
Yeah,
old teacher.
like
Yeah.
through text.
Yeah.
Bro, what
We're
the
chill. We're chill like that.
wait, how does that happen?
Um, well, we have a thing in the Philippines
Oh.
called Facebook. I don't know if you know it. Sometimes we like have to contact our teacher through Messenger, and like nowadays, I don't message her that much. But before, we were like texting it up. I don't know how it happened. I don't know if that was allowed, but you know what? It happened.
I love that so much. I wish like I had their like social media because all I have is their email, and that's so depressing. Anyways, locked with my boyfriend, but it's two exes trying to understand each other.
I don't.
Mm.
I don't. I mean, if you can write it. I mean that one in the end where it's like trying to understand each other and getting their closure. I really like that concept. But
Oh,
don't butcher it, please.
dude.
It's up to you, but don't butcher it.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I think this would be a really like I would say go for it because actually all my previous like stories or mini movies are all basically twists on cliche or like kind of like cringy gotcha movies. But my series were just horrible, but like the mini movies weren't that bad. I kind of like took a twist to it for a lot of them. But I actually think that the plot that you were given or the plot that you have is very similar to this short story that I read in English class, which was basically the whole motif of like light and dark, and these like two like married couple, like these two married people, like they were like kind of like drifting away, but then this blackout or this shortage kind of brought them together because they're now eating at the same table, sharing like a candlelight, and then they're understanding each other more and getting closure in that sense. They're forced to do it. I think that could be a really interesting plot. You could show a lot of character development dynamics within it, and it could be really original and interesting. You could like put a lot of you could like incorporate a lot of motifs and like symbolization in there. I don't know, something like that. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, you could just go for it if you want
Yeah.
to. Why not, right?
Wait, I have like a genuine question, Ginger. So like if like why do you say that it's like not good to like kind of try to rewrite a cliche if you're not confident in doing that? Like why?